where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
All right. Ratings. Vince, where does Matchstick Men, 2003, I think is when it came out. Mm-hmm. Where does it rate on your Cageometer? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uno, dos, tres. Movie-wise, you know what? I'll give it a 7. I really did find myself enjoying this movie quite a bit, even though right from the beginning I was able to see how the story was gonna go, and that he was getting conned by Frank the whole time. And like we talked about, they telegraph it a little too hard. I wish it would have been a little more subtle and had you questioning it a little bit more. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good story about redemption, in my opinion. I thought throughout the film, you even though he's a bad guy who's ruined a lot of people's lives and taking money from them, you start to see he's trying to redeem himself. And then when he's literally left with pretty much nothing, he comes to it comes full circle right now. He's able to put everything behind him. In his mind, he's paid off his sins because all that dirty money, like Nigel said, all that dirty money that he had acquired over the years is gone. And so he can start fresh and he can start living a life that he's known he needs to live, which is where all of his OCD and Tourette's comes from. And I'm glad that they did add on that little bit at the end where he confronts her. They make peace with it, and then it shows that he's gone on and he's now actually able to start moving forward with his life. He asked out that cashier chick, and they got married, and they're having a kid, and he's not stuck living this life of crime and like essentially frozen in time. He's just repeating these cons. He's never moved on. He's never gotten into a relationship. I really appreciated them tying it up that way. I think they did a good job, and it made sense. And it was, it was a fun movie. It was fun, had some good funny moments in it, and I definitely enjoyed it more than some of the other films we've had to watch. As far as Cage's performance, I want to give him a 7 too, because I felt like he nailed like the Tourette's and some of the OCD stuff that he did. And there were times where I'm like watching him and I'm like, fuck, like that's how I imagine somebody with those disorders behaves. And that character's traits led to some of those cagey moments feeling a little more authentic, which I always appreciate. And that always gets a bonus for me because I love when he goes off the fucking hinges.
Yeah.
And then I thought the chemistry between him and Angela was really, really good too. Like he's just like, you could feel him wanting to be better for her, and you see his tendencies start to fall off and his disorders start to fall off as he's spending more time with her. And I thought he did a good job at bringing that up front. Like he wants to be better for this girl, and you start to see him like fall in love with her as his daughter. And sometimes he's not the best at conveying those types of emotions in films, where you don't really get that connection with the other actor or actress that he's with. So I really appreciated that from him. So movie 7, Cage 7, definitely one of the more enjoyable films we've watched throughout the show.
Yeah, for sure. Nigel, where does this rate on your Cageometer?
Yeah, this is a pretty solid movie. I liked it all around. I don't have a lot of major complaints with it. I give it a 7 out of 10 as well. Not to hammer on the same point, but my major problem with it is that it is a little too predictable right from the outset that the con is happening to him. Mm-hmm. Part of the joy in it, though, was figuring out like how the con was going to come undone or pay off, or whatever, whether he was going to flip the switch and maybe he had been trying to out-con Frank the whole time too. And, but really the story is about him getting over the con life and, realizing and finally getting what he actually wanted in life, which was a family or a daughter or somebody to have a genuine human connection to. And he gets his comeuppance, he loses that, he loses his money, he loses everything from it. But, as cheesy as it might sound, the happy ending I liked a lot because it was, like I said before, it's happy, but it pays off in the rest of the story that you watch. It falls in line with what it could have gone two ways. He could have gone back to the con life and still been miserable, 1 year later, but it shows that, even though he lost everything, he's doing okay because he's got what he really wanted out of it, which is to get out of the con life and, have a wife and have kids and stuff. So,
find someone to love. And that was what was missing from his life was love in general.
Yeah.
I think love and having a clean conscience, because he sort of tortures himself over how bad of a guy he was. And maybe he just fell into that trap of like, I'm a bad guy, so I might as well just be a bad guy and just con people, if he was truly really bad, he could have turned to even worse crime, than financial white collar stuff. But,
or if he would have been the one who shot Chuck, or
and so if he beat his wife or ex-wife or whatever, it may have just been a one-time thing where he gave her a black eye and then they called it quits, and that's where he realized like he's a shitty person and needs to not be in relationships because he doesn't want to fall into that. You're left with conjecture on what that says about his character. But I like that aspect of it. All the actors are great. All the performances are great and believable, especially in a movie about a big con. It has to be believable. And even having the suspicion that they were conning him throughout the whole movie, it pays off, it's played in a way where it is totally believable. This could be totally legit, or they could be, scamming him out of the stuff. And I think that, like we mentioned before, I can't remember her name. The actress who plays Angela.
Alison Lohman.
Alison Lohman does a perfect job of like straddling that line of feeling sincere and probably actually being sincere with the way we know from the character in the end, but also still, hitting him up for information, trying to wheedle her way into his life, checking through his stuff, the crocodile tears to manipulate him about stuff. It all kind of comes through in that performance. So
in a way, it's kind of... it's similar to, I forget her name, but the girl in the red dress in Deadfall, but done well.
Oh, yeah.
This is what that looks like when it's done well.
Yeah, and I was saying about this earlier, like this is like good Deadfall. Like this movie was like a good version of Deadfall done in a better execution. So
Chris Coppola didn't do quite as good a job as Ridley Scott
and whoever wrote this, script writers for this one. Solid movie. I recommend it. I can understand why it doesn't have a lot of buzz about it and kind of has gone forgotten over the years. It's not like great, it's not one of those all-time classics, but it's worth the watch. So
for sure, yeah.
As far as Cage's performance, I actually give him an 8 out of 10 on this because of those portrayal of those various fake mental illnesses that he has. But he does it in a way you think has to be a little bit challenging while he's shooting to try and get across the facial tics and the vocalizations. And again, he does have he does some really good physical acting in a lot of this. So you can sort of see his actual state of mind in how he carries himself and how he's interacting with Angela, when he's happy and also when he's really sad and when things go off the rail and he gets really manic, he has all those movements down. So again, I'll keep harping on it, but I think that's one of his unsung traits as a physical actor that
100%
doesn't get brought up a lot, but he really shows it in this one. His relationship with Angela feels genuine. You can kind of feel his joy and excitement and struggles of trying to be a new parent, with it. And I think he does it in a way that's very, very charming. You can see why he's also a really good con man in this. Like he's very charming and smart to think on his feet. So
especially in the scenes like when he's interacting with Chuck, like you see how good he is at it,
or when you see him just pull off the pigeon drop con, how he plays a completely different, random guy in the laundromat stuff. So I think his performance is again, it's not one of those like great memorable performances, but it was good for what it was. So it showed his skill as an actor in a movie that's pretty good, but not one that most people are going to be talking about decades from now.
Which I think is kind of unfortunate. I think it is.
But again,
it is a solid movie.
It's a testament to how he generally gives his all when he's doing a movie, no matter what. So, and again, nobody knows how a movie's going to be received while they're making it, so you might as well give it your all. And you can tell he put his heart into this character. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel that too. On my Cageometer, I also gave it a 7. It's not a masterpiece. It's not not something you're, like, I do understand why it's been kind of largely forgotten. I kind of feel, sort of similar to The Weatherman in tone and feel.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a movie that's, I feel solid. Nigel disagrees, but I feel like it's a very solid movie and well executed for what it is. But yeah, I can't give it like super high marks just because of. I feel like they could have executed the con on us better, but maybe they wanted to let us in on what was happening at the same time so that we wouldn't feel cheated like we were conned. But I feel like that's the whole point of the movie, right? It would have worked
better, I think, if they'd done that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, in the behind the scenes, they said that there was a lot more clues dropped, which I feel like, from the first moment that he starts getting conned, you're like, yeah, he's getting conned. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because there weren't a ton of movies like this at the time. The cat's head just right there. So maybe we've been trained as an audience since then to pick this stuff up, and maybe at the time audiences weren't quite as keen to this kind of bait and switch. And so they wanted to make sure that the audience didn't feel cheated out of, some resolution, or I don't know. But yeah, it's not a perfect movie, but it's a satisfying movie, and it's definitely one that I recommend. I think it's one of the, like Vince said, it's one of the more enjoyable movies that we've done throughout. Just a fun watch, I feel like. Yeah. Yep. Though, like if you really stop and think about it, it's pretty heartbreaking.
Yes.
He gets this daughter and he loves her, obviously, and he genuinely cares for her. And then turns out that she's just scamming him the entire time. It's pretty gut wrenching if you really stop and think about it. I kind of wish that they would have done a little bit more with that, like his reaction to it. He's like, he breaks down for a second in front of Heather, but then he's laughing about, oh, God, I can't believe I've been getting conned this entire time. Mm-hmm. So I think they could have done a little bit more. I don't know. I hate to compare to Mandy in the moment when his love is being burned to death, spoilers, in front of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Cage, I'll give him an 8 as well. Like, I feel like he did such a great job with those visual tics, and like you said, it must have been really challenging to like nail that and nail the performance and nail the lines, and it must have been it must have been a lot of work, like fitting that in and like knowing where to put it and where not to put it, and and the blinks and the uh-huhs and all that kind of stuff, and just the little like visual cues where he's like pointing at Frank to get off the carpet and all that kind of stuff, and like him really throwing himself into that character of a person who is faking having this stuff but thinks that they have it at the same time. Like it's a pretty masterful performance. I mean, like Nigel said, like his physical acting is very underrated, and I feel like it really comes across here, especially like when he really goes off the rails. Like you feel it, especially like when he's in the pharmacy. Like he doesn't even look like the same person at moments.
Yeah,
because
really
he's
deranged.
so manic and over the top and crazed and just really trying to get those pills, his menopause pills.
I'm having a hot flash.
But yeah, sevens across the board. Prefects. Sevens across the board, and then a little over I guess it would be a 7.6 for his overall performance.